It's Saturday night. That means it's time for the Don Tony Show.
The wait all week long is finally over. Get Don Tony's perspective on current affairs in the world of pro wrestling and much more. The Don Tony Show.
And now your host, the man, the legend, Don Tony.
We are officially in December. Happy holidays, everyone. What the hell's with this extra intro? I know you can hear me. All right, I have to disconnect that one. 2 weeks in a row kind of threw me off course. Happy holidays, everybody. It is Saturday, December 2nd, 2023. Welcome to this latest edition of the Don Tony Show. I am Don Tony. As always, I want to thank you very much for joining me. If this seems like I'm talking a little bit faster than usual, there is actually a reason behind it. You remember that show, I Love the 80s, Strikes Back? Well, go figure this week. A few days ago, my father was hanging out with Curtis Sliwa. I mean, I know locally a lot of people know him recently for trying to run for mayor, but Guardian Angels, who could ever forget his appearances on Morton Downey Jr. from the 80s? But tonight, I actually have to go to Staten Island for a holiday Christmas party and a charity event, and it's raising money for diabetes, but the host of the party is actually going to be Crazy Eddie himself. If anybody lives in the Northeast that's a little bit older remembers Crazy Eddie, those stores. There's a tremendous documentary on YouTube right now about Eddie Antar. If you want to go check it out, he hustled big time back in the 80s and did some prison time for it, but he paid his dues. He's straight up now, and pictures coming. Tomorrow night on a sit-down, we'll have some pictures, and there's supposed to be a few other celebrities there, but I don't want to name drop it yet because I'll believe it when I see it. But it's a private party, and I'm looking forward to it. So I got to finish a little bit earlier. Right now, the wife is getting her hair done, and I got to pick her up, and then we got to shoot out to Staten Island and get ready. So before we go any further, I want to wish a public congratulations to Matt Riddle and Misha Montana. Yesterday, Misha gave birth to Matthew Jr. Don't have the official weight as of yet, but they are now the proud parents of a baby boy. So I'm very, very happy for them. The shower gifts that some of you were very kind to chip in with me from a month or two ago. Trust me, the Don Tony family will be represented quite a bit in that household. So congrats to them. It's a shame most people out there, they spent more time talking about this schmuck than, some good news like that. If you don't know who that is, he's back in prison, my friends. How many of you out there hate the website Ringside News? One of the most notorious bullshit sites, cut and paste, no actual connections, guessing more than anything else. And their leader, Stephen Carrier, is a perv. He's a douchebag. He has gone after a lot of women online, some very disgusting DMs. You could giggle at it when you're 16 or 18, but when you're now in your 30s, mid to upper 30s and still doing this stuff, it's disturbing. And he got arrested for assault. This is the second or third time. The thing I want to know is, how come every time this motherfucker gets arrested, his hair is all discombobulated? I mean, if I were to get arrested right now, I think my hair is pretty damn, straight. His hair is always disheveled. You almost feel like, sir, put your hands behind your back. 1 second. It almost seems like he does that, right? Put your hands behind your back. And he messes up his hair. So, look, in all seriousness, it's disturbing that this guy is assaulting people. And, more often than not, women, people that might be in a position where they can't kick his ass. Hopefully he gets the help that he deserves. Maybe some jail time will set him straight, but I don't have his first mugshot, and I heard there's 3. There's a mysterious one that is not available, but, go seek it out. So I just figured I mentioned it right off the bat. I wasn't even going to mention him, but interesting to see how many people, are talking about it today. We got some news to get into. Couple of comments about some things going on. We'll discuss the RIC FLAIR controversy. I don't know if it's actually a controversy, but it's definitely something that needs to be talked about, because will AEW fans tolerate it? Even if they do beloved Sting, Ric Flair going a little creepy, pervy old man. Hey, you got your wants, God bless him that he still, is interested in the opposite sex, but, cutting it on Rampage when, you do look like you're not even grandfather territory anymore. You're not great grandfather territory. There's a reason why, people, kind of find it kind of cringe. And what's interesting? Think back to Scott Hall, God rest his soul. Does anybody remember 2015, what happened with Scott Hall? Scott Hall, because Paige pinned her opponent with a little bit expressive, almost like a little bit sexual. Scott Hall makes a little joke on social media, says, I might have to take you on my knee and slap you. Lighthearted humor. Paige is an adult. Scott Hall is an adult. Scott Hall was nowhere near Ric Flair age territory, and Scott Hall got trashed online, calling him a creepo perv for making a lighthearted comment about Paige, who was a lot older than 18 years old. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Also, you know what? We'll talk about SmackDown, obviously. It's a big deal, where some things are going from here. We'll probably kick off with that. But I do want to mention this. It's a little bit out of place, but, 2 women that we definitely should mention briefly. First of all, this surprises me. This surprises me a lot, because I can't picture Mackenzie Mitchell demanding that much salary. For those that don't know, Mackenzie Mitchell, who we have seen recently in NXT, doing a little backstage work with the wrestlers, wife of Vic Joseph, who we beloved on this show, she was released yesterday. And if you read her statement, and her statement says, and I quote, "Today I was released by WWE. I met my husband, moved cross-country from Connecticut to Florida for NXT, which I've always considered home, and met friends that became like family. I've always said and firmly believe that when one door closes, another door opens." So I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, listen, do I know Mackenzie Mitchell? No, I don't. But I will tell you, even back in her days in Impact Wrestling, you never heard anything bad about her. Very, very well liked. Professional. Now, I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but she also plugged a website. If you want to go check it out, I'm actually pretty impressed by it. It's headlinebymm.com. The MM, I'm assuming, stands for Mackenzie Mitchell. Headlinebymm.com. No, it is not an OnlyFans page. No, she is not spreading eagle, for your sexual entertainment. She sells jewelry. And she sells more, I don't want to say costume jewelry. Costume jewelry, it sounds like a 99-cent store. But, some really, really crafty, artistic jewelry. And she's got a wide selection. And I went on this website yesterday, and my wife was like, "Oh, that looks nice." And the prices are cheap, $50, $70, $30, $110. So, when you look at the website, you say to yourself, this doesn't look like somebody who just, had this planned, and now because she's released in one day, she launches this store. I wonder if there was anything to it. I don't think so, because remember, Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose had a donut shop, and other people have had some outside, entities, business ventures, as long as it doesn't interfere with WWE. So I got to be honest with you. I mean, was she an important part of NXT? No. Early on, the running gag on these shows here is she always seemed angry, almost constipated. Whenever she would interview someone, she always had like an angry look on her face, but that was kind of like her personality. But I have never heard anything bad about her. I'm a little baffled, especially when you realize that the majority of the people that were let go by WWE this week were executives. If you tuned into last week's sit-down episode, I told you all that, the TKO Group Holdings is still settling in. And if you remember last Sunday, I said that they haven't even released all the people that they have to release in WWE yet, because they're still trying to figure out who stays and who goes, who benefits us better than the others. And 2 days ago, we learned that a whole bunch more people were released. People are shocked by it. Why are they shocked by it? This is normal business when you merge. There's still more people that are going to be released. But Mackenzie Mitchell is an on-air personality. So I'm a little surprised that she was let go. I wish her the best. I have a feeling she goes back to Impact. I don't know if AEW actually needs her, to be honest with you, but I'm a little surprised that she was let go. All right. So yesterday on SmackDown, the big news coming out of it is that Randy Orton has signed a contract to be exclusively on SmackDown. Randy Orton will appear once in a while on Raw. If you remember our discussion last week about CM Punk, now with Randy Orton and CM Punk back, that entices the Raw TV deal that much more. And if Warner Brothers Discovery wanted to create a show called Collision, or launch it or approve it, so CM Punk is the center, CM Punk will not be the focus and the center piece of WWE. At times, yes. At times, it feels like Cody is the center of attention. At times, it feels like Seth Rollins is the center of attention. At times, it feels like Jey Uso is the center of attention. On SmackDown, Roman Reigns. But Roman Reigns is not there every single week. So LA Knight is now the guy that's getting elevated. And if you saw my early synopsis yesterday, I put LA Knight aligns with Randy Orton against the Bloodline. Last night, when Randy Orton started getting his ass kicked by Jimmy Uso and Solo Sikoa, here comes LA Knight to make the save. So you're going to see LA Knight and Randy Orton team up multiple times to beat up on Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Uso. The thing is that Jimmy Uso is going to be the one that's going to be eating most of the beatdown. But we got some news with regards to Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns has been announced for 3 upcoming SmackDown episodes. December 15th, which is 2 weeks from yesterday, January 5th, and January 19th. Those are the next 3 SmackDown appearances for Roman Reigns. I'll be honest with you, next week, Tribute to the Troops. Yes, it is a SmackDown theme episode. Little surprised that Roman Reigns would not be brought back. I know the Tribute to the Troops episodes are not as, the visual, it's not as powerful as it was before for regular fans. For military, it still is. But for the casual wrestling fan, it just feels like a holiday edition of SmackDown next week. And they have announced some matches next week. Roman Reigns is not announced. Cody Rhodes will be there. Not announced publicly on SmackDown last night, but Cody Rhodes will be there. Maybe that's part of the reason why Roman will not. But with Tribute to the Troops, you kind of feel like you want to get some of the, more big name. Not saying that the others are not big names, but you would have thought Roman Reigns would have been there. But hey, at least he'll be there now for 3 of the next 6 weeks. And this seems like it's going to set up Randy Orton. Randy Orton is going to be feuding with the Bloodline. If you remember when we talked about Cody Rhodes, we and I'm not saying this to brag, but 3 weeks ago, we predicted and nailed that Shinsuke Nakamura was the one calling out Cody Rhodes. If you listen to Shinsuke's words closely, Shinsuke said, just got a strange text. Oh, check this out. This is cool. Matt Riddle and Misha Montana are tuning into the show right now. And 10 pounds, almost 10 pounds. Very, very cool. Let me see. Okay. Thank you so much for the warm wishes. We are happy. Little Matthew Ronald Riddle Jr. That is his name. Not little, but Matthew Ronald Riddle Jr., almost 10 pounds. Matt is doing interviews, so I told him to link up with you. I hope you're well and enjoy the holiday season. Please shout out everybody. Side note, Steve Carrier, enough said. I love you even more, Misha. That's funny because he was a douchebag to her as well. And yeah, the rest of it, I'll keep quiet. Oh, okay. Yeah. So pretty cool. Live on the show. Congratulations to both of them, man. That's nice. I love hearing stuff like that. It's good news, man. It's the holiday season. You know, Alexa Bliss just had a kid. Carmella and Corey Graves just had a kid. Now you got Misha Montana. I mean, this year there was something in the water, you know, and there's others that are pregnant as well. Brian Cage, excuse me, got coffee in my throat. Brian Cage just had a kid, and there's others. Somebody's asking, when am I going to have a kid? I'm already pregnant. No, I'm too old for that. Can't. Too old. Could you imagine me trying to have a regular, try to do some office work as little as I do, and then do the shows, and then have two parents that, are still, that have some issues that, need a little bit extra help, and then being married, and then now having a baby on top of it? When am I going to do shows? So I'm not saying that I put the shows before a baby, but it would be too much. At some times, you need to relax. But if I was 10, 15 years younger, maybe. So anyway, getting back to Randy Orton, couple of weeks ago, we said, if you listen to Shinsuke Nakamura's words closely, you knew it was Cody Rhodes. You are privileged. I've been waiting for months. Remember the 6-man tag match? It was Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, and Shinsuke Nakamura. And Shinsuke ultimately went after Seth Rollins. Now he targets Cody Rhodes. Why is this feud happening? Because we're only in the beginning of December. The Royal Rumble is still, 6-7 weeks away? Around that time? So you have to do something. You can't just sit on your hands and just start pushing Royal Rumble. Royal Rumble, sure. CM Punk will enter. Cody Rhodes entered. Others will enter. And we got news about Royal Rumble. One WWE superstar is very pissed off right now. And that might give a little hint as far as what's going to be happening to this person next. But, so Cody and Shinsuke is to keep us busy going into the end of 2023. Randy Orton and Roman Reigns is not going to be a WrestleMania match. It could possibly be Elimination Chamber. That is a possibility, but that's February, and that's after the Rumble. But for the time being, they need to have somebody going after Roman Reigns. LA Knight, let's be honest, been there, done. That's it. That championship title match is not happening again. I don't think anybody wants to see LA Knight lose a title match for the second time this close. Cody is finishing the story. That's not changing. No matter how much people online want to try to convince you or clickbait you into thinking that something possibly could change, it is not changing. That is the story. It is ending. But there'll be some dusty finishes. Absolutely. There'll be something happen at Mania that we're going to think, what the fuck? And then obviously maybe a match will be restarted and Cody will get it and this and that. But so what do you do with Roman Reigns for the time being? Randy Orton. RKO, calling out Roman Reigns ultimately leads to a match. And then, we get into Royal Rumble time. And then Royal Rumble is where anything could go. And then we got to see what happens. I still believe that Randy Orton has an RKO with Jey Uso's name on it. And I wouldn't be surprised after WrestleMania, especially going into Crown Jewel, if Cody Rhodes is the undisputed WWE Universal Champion. Remember what I'm saying right now. If Cody Rhodes, and he will be, undisputed WWE Universal Champion, that means Cody Rhodes will be on SmackDown. So if Randy Orton RKO's Jey Uso, who could be a tag team champion by then, and then Cody Rhodes is kind of torn, which side do I take? Cody Rhodes will be on SmackDown because he will be champion. And Randy Orton could then go after Cody Rhodes, and we may have Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton to be the first hot feud after WrestleMania. So you got to think ahead a little bit, but that seems like where it's going right now. So yesterday on SmackDown, we had, the center of it was about Randy Orton, and this was cool because on Monday, people felt like, they should have opened up with CM Punk and then go through the night to have Randy close. I said it on last Sunday's discussion about Survivor Series, and Kevin and I talked about it as well. And let me tell you something, if you haven't done so already, you're missing out on a banger, probably the best show that we have done I know we went on a hiatus for a few years, but the best show we have done in recent memory. Stressed the aftermath. Most of our discussion was the aftermath of Survivor Series, not the review, because everybody's done a review by now. But that is up and playing right now. And also, we posted yesterday the Q&A. So you could go to DonTony.com and you could access both right now. But, Randy Orton, he had double fusion back surgery. Just because you feel well, just because you're healed, doesn't mean that something was altered inside your body. You always have to be careful about that. You have to tweak your work a little bit. And Randy Orton, who was very much a ground game beforehand, is going to have to stress that even more. You will see others doing the crazy bumps, and that's to protect Randy. But the fact that he is back is tremendous. And I think Survivor Series with CM Punk, and you see the kind of numbers that came in with social media views, that obviously was a bigger story because of the fact that he left AEW. And we got some news about Bryan Danielson and Tony Khan. They broke their silence about CM Punk, and I'll share it with you in a little bit. I'll give you my thoughts as well. But, Randy Orton, you got to bring him back in, not slowly, but he cannot be the center of attention, as far as in-ring work goes. On Raw, Seth Rollins is the center of attention. He is the world heavyweight champion. He is the one that is always, putting out the matches. Cody Rhodes, obviously, has a lot of attention as well, but Cody Rhodes, sooner or later, his path is going to cross with Roman Reigns. Right now, the Judgment Day stuff is just to keep him busy, and now Shinsuke Nakamura. But Randy Orton yesterday, the buzz was that Nick Aldis was going to be signing Randy Orton to SmackDown. And early on, Nick Aldis gets a little bit of a confrontation with Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman is a little bit concerned because Nick Aldis earlier said that he plans on signing Randy Orton exclusively to SmackDown. And Paul Heyman confronts Nick Aldis and says, is that true? Nick Aldis says, if I have to offer up the entire bloodline to make it happen, so be it. And Paul Heyman is freaking worried about it. Now, the funny thing about it is, I guess Adam Pearce just happened to be in the same vicinity of SmackDown, because once Nick Aldis revealed that he planned on signing Randy Orton exclusively to SmackDown, later on we see a little confrontation with Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce. They both want Randy Orton for SmackDown. So Adam Pearce says that he has a contract and he's going to present it to Randy Orton later on. So towards the end of the show, we get Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis. They both have contracts, and they're kind of offering up what they can do. And Adam Pearce says, Randy, I will give you the winner of the World Heavyweight Championship match between Seth Rollins and Jey Uso. And Nick Aldis looks at Randy Orton, and Nick Aldis says that I could give you the the guys who took you out. So they're in the ring, and then out of nowhere you hear, ladies and gentlemen, Paul Heyman comes out, getting big pop because they're in Brooklyn, New York, and we'll talk about Brooklyn's reaction and Bobby Lashley especially in a little bit. But Paul Heyman comes out, and he's telling Randy, go to Raw. You're safe on Raw. You know, and Randy Orton is kind of like teasing. He's got both contracts in his hands. And Randy Orton is looking at Paul Heyman, and Paul Heyman says, you know what? The Bloodline will make the decision for you. So here comes Solo Sikoa. Here comes Jimmy Uso. Jimmy Uso is attacking Randy Orton. Solo Sikoa comes out. LA Knight's music hits. So LA Knight chases Solo Sikoa to the back. That allows Randy Orton to hit his spike DDT and the RKO. And he then has both of the contracts in his hand, and he throws the Raw contract. And, you know, got some boos. I think a lot of us thought that maybe he's going to sign both, and you tease that for a couple of weeks, but he throws the Raw contract out of the ring. And if you look closely in the lower right-hand corner, you can see Adam Pearce's reaction. He's pissed the fuck off. Nick Aldis is smiling from ear to ear. Randy Orton signs the contract, and then he looks at Paul Heyman, and he says to Paul, you can call Roman Reigns. Call Roman Reigns, and you could tell him Daddy's back. So we think we're going off the air. Paul Heyman looks very, very concerned. And why not? Why not? As the Viper, I'm sure Nick Aldis loved every minute of it. Randy Orton RKOs Nick Aldis. And we go off the air like that. So now you got LA Knight and Randy Orton. Expect that tag team match to be happening soon of Randy and LA Knight versus Jimmy and Solo. And then who knows, that might be tribute to the troops next week. That could very well be a match next week. And in the following week, Roman Reigns comes back. He addresses what's going on. And then we go from there. So that was the biggest story coming out of SmackDown yesterday. A couple other things that are pretty important coming out of SmackDown. Let's mention briefly Logan Paul. Because Logan Paul comes out and he's getting the what treatment by the Brooklyn fans. But, you know, he's handled it pretty well. And he reveals that he talked to Adam Pearce, and they're setting up a tournament to determine a new number one contender for the United States Championship. Now, if you remember about a month ago when he won that title, I said Kevin Owens is the person that they expect to have will be feuding with Logan Paul sooner than later. And that's pretty much what they played on yesterday. Logan Paul reveals the participants, 8 men in the tournament. And those 8 men are Bobby Lashley, Santos Escobar, Dragon Lee, Karrion Kross, Austin Theory, Grayson Waller, Kevin Owens, and somebody from NXT. Somebody from NXT. One person that immediately went online to make his pitch is Carmelo Hayes, and look at that. He actually is posing with the United States Championship. Could Carmelo Hayes end up in this tournament? Anything is possible. Some people think it's axiom. But, you know, the interesting thing about it is, you know, the participants. Now, Santos Escobar, you know, technically was trying to help Ray. And, you know, when you hear Logan Paul, like, just throwing these names out like they're deserving, you know, it was kind of off a little bit. But Logan Paul was great on the mic yesterday, and he had a little bit of a confrontation with Kevin Owens. They did have a stare down. Kevin Owens would end up having a match with Grayson Waller because Grayson Waller and Austin Theory interrupted Kevin Owens. At one point before the match even started, Kevin Owens knocked out Austin Theory, and that storyline would come into play in the match because Grayson Waller was trying to injure the hand of Kevin Owens. So, because he's constantly knocking him out with a right hand. So during Grayson Waller and Kevin Owens, you have Logan Paul on commentary. And Logan Paul, I tell you, it's very interesting that he gets away to say a couple of things that he says. One thing that I always hated about the Raw guest hosts back in the day is that some of these Raw guest hosts, there was an ego issue that they always, not always, but there was a decent number of Raw guest hosts that would not just accept that they're a guest and that the wrestler that you're interacting with has to have the upper hand. And how many times you would have like a Chris Jericho or somebody as a heel going at it on the mic with a Raw guest host, and the Raw guest host tries to always get the last laugh, always tries to maybe go into a little business on their own because they're worried about their own, aura about themselves or how they come across. They can't be embarrassed by a wrestler. And you saw that multiple times. Yesterday, when Kevin Owens is in the ring with Logan Paul says that I've been in the ring with some of the greatest boxers in history. And 6 seconds would still be 5 seconds too much, too long for me to knock your ass out. Because Kevin Owens, fighter, punching Grayson Waller, knocking out Kevin Owens. And now you have Logan Paul that's pretty much shooting down Kevin Owens. I only need 1 second to knock your ass out. You think you're a fighter, but I've been in the ring with the greatest boxers of all time. And I kind of showed up Kevin Owens. And Kevin Owens, his only response is, well, you're in my world. You're in this wrestling ring. And then they started jaw-jacking with each other, and that's when Grayson Waller interrupted. But when Kevin Owens had the match with Grayson Waller, Logan Paul is calling Kevin Owens Humpty Dumpty, talking about his egg-shaped body. And, we know what kind of physique Kevin Owens has, but that's something that you normally don't bring up. You don't hear people making fun of his physique. I mean, even when he feuded with others in the past, even Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, they're more about their own bodies than really knocking Kevin Owens. But what ends up happening in the match with Kevin Owens and Grayson Waller, they put on a banger. They put on a great match, but in the end, it was Kevin Owens who beat Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller thought he had Kevin Owens' hand tied up in the corner, so he goes and charges the corner, and Kevin Owens moves out of dodge last second, and Kevin Owens rolls him up. But that stare down with Kevin Owens and Logan Paul is something that keep in mind down the line, because that looks like that is going to be the feud that is going to go down. Now, the thing with the matches, they already announced the first 2 matches in this tournament next week. And these matches are Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee and Bobby Lashley versus Karrion Kross. Very, very interesting on that second match, because Bobby Lashley, this very interesting yesterday. Yes, Brooklyn could be a little bit out of the box with their reactions. Totally into Bobby Lashley yesterday, not into Butch. And with all due respect, when I still see people, it's time to call him Pete Dunne again. Yeah, the fans could chant Bruiserweight. They could do that right now. They could do it right now. Why don't they chant Bruiserweight? Do you want them to chant, let's go Pete, let's go Pete, let's go Pete? Is that any better? I get people think in their mind, oh, he's back to Pete Dunne. That means he'll be the dominant force like he was in NXT. And when it doesn't happen and they cry online to Triple H, you know what I want Triple H to do? I want him to go online and do this. And if you know why I did that, you know why I did that. Pete Dunne yesterday, Butch, see, I'm now doing the name, Butch took on Bobby Lashley. And we got the Acme Insta match that we always talk about. It happened on Raw Monday. You know, Zoe Stark is talking to Shayna Baszler, and here comes Nia Jax saying some insults, and Zoe is like, how's about I kick your ass? And Nia's like, I'm so glad you came up with that idea. Yesterday, they did it again with Bobby Lashley and Butch. WWE does it so often, you don't realize it at times. We have Kayla Braxton interviewing Butch in the back, and she's like, you know, what's going on with Ridge Holland? And I thought Butch kind of answered it. He actually talked. He gave an explanation, and Bobby Lashley shows up. Bobby Lashley, for some reason, is just like making fun of Butch, and Butch is like, you know, how's about we take it in the ring? So you had the Nia Jax, Zoe Stark thing all over again. But they end up having a match, and Brooklyn is solidly, I would say 80-20 behind Bobby Lashley yesterday. They appreciated Butch. Butch works hard, no question. Butch did a lot of great stuff yesterday. And, you know, I thought this was an awesome picture. I don't know who took that picture yesterday. That was an awesome picture. But Bobby Lashley ended up beating the shit out of Butch. No Ridge Holland at ringside. No Sheamus at ringside. Sheamus will be back in the next week or two, so you can prepare for that. But the Street Profits were at ringside. Now, there's some buzz going on online that Bobby Lashley might be bringing Akam and Razor onto TV, and they're going to squash the Street Profits. I don't know who came up with that. I have not heard any news about that. One thing is for certain, the Street Profits have lost their luster. When we get into this week in ratings, which we will do shortly, the Street Profits once again visiting the basement. How many times in the last 3 months has that happened? And when you realize that the Street Profits getting a tag team title match is the lowest rating of SmackDown, that's not really on Judgment Day if you follow the ratings every week. That's on the Street Profits. Something is off with the Street Profits. Whatever they were testing, fans were not buying. Fans are not buying this attitude change with the Street Profits. And honestly, BFAB, I don't know where that line's. Could we possibly get something stupid where Bobby Lashley reveals that BFAB will be in the corner of the Street Profits and Bobby Lashley is going to go out on his own? It certainly feels like they may be going that route, but I don't know if Akam and Razor, if they're going to come back, they don't need to be in the corner of Bobby Lashley. Let Bobby Lashley just do his thing, because Bobby Lashley could still go. Yesterday, he looked, you know, as good as he always does, and he's in this tournament. Is he going to win the tournament? No. But something is up with the Street Profits. It is not clicking. And you know what else, too? Kevin and I had this conversation this week. No one is talking about it yet. But I guarantee you, in a matter of a week or two, you're going to start seeing everybody talking about it. We are convinced something is up with Carlito. Something is up. Don't know if it's buyer's remorse. As ridiculous as that may sound, we broke down Carlito's in-ring matches, how many he's had in the last 5 years, and it's a little surprising how few matches he has had. It is also surprising that Carlito, since he's been back in the WWE, he's worked some house shows. He has only had one singles match, and that was the one against Bobby Lashley that ended up turning into a clusterfuck. Carlito, for the second time in as many months, is taken out before a match and injured. And no mention of him in this tournament. Little bit of recap yesterday for Santos Escobar, but nothing. Something is up with Carlito. Don't know what it is. Maybe they're just going to have him turn full-blown heel. I don't know. But something seems up with Carlito. Just a sense, Just a sense. Not saying that that's going to happen. But yesterday, speaking of Santos Escobar, he beat Joaquin Wilde. They claim that Cruz del Toro is still on the shelf. It was a one-on-one match. After the match is over, Santos Escobar did a little bit of a post-match beatdown. Joaquin Wilde was saved by Dragon Lee. And, Santos Escobar has just got a great look, tremendous theme music. You do not change anything about Santos Escobar, but I will say this. I think Dragon Lee is starting to turn the corner with the WWE Universe. Nice pop for Dragon Lee yesterday, some Dragon Lee chants. It's going to take a little while, but Dragon Lee is starting to get acclimated to the main roster, and he was still making an appearance from time to time in NXT, but the crowd yesterday was buying. They had more of a reaction to Dragon Lee going at it with Santos yesterday than Santos and Carlito on the go-home SmackDown last week leading into Survivor Series. So, and I have a feeling it's going to actually pop a decent number as well. So, a couple other things that happened on SmackDown yesterday. After Bobby Lashley beat Butch, for some reason, Kayla Braxton seeked out Butch again for an interview. I thought Butch pretty much gave his answer when Bobby Lashley stopped the interview earlier, but he says the same thing again. And he's pretty much alone, and Pretty Deadly shows up and they lay him out. And this is going to lead to the return of Sheamus. It'll be interesting if we end up seeing a feud with Sheamus and Ridge Holland, because they're supposed to do Sheamus and Karrion Kross very, very soon, but they can end up switching it and going the Ridge Holland Sheamus route. But he'll be coming back very, very soon. Couple other things that happened yesterday on SmackDown. The paranoia on Monday with Damian Priest and the Judgment Day was apparent. Yesterday, the paranoia with Bayley and Damage Control is also apparent. Yesterday, Bianca Belair opens up the show, and she is not done with Damage Control. She wants her title back. Damage Control comes out minus Bayley. Dakota Kai, and if you remember what I said the last couple of weeks, that when they boot Bayley, Dakota Kai will remain with Damage Control because she is the mouthpiece. And yesterday they showed that. Dakota Kai on the mic says to Bianca that Io is not interested in Bianca, but if she wants another shot at Damage Control or even Io, she's got to go through the entire Damage Control team. Charlotte, Shotzi come out. Becky Lynch is a member of Raw. And without Bayley, you now have 3-on-3. So we get a brawl. It breaks out. And you see Bianca going at it a little bit with Io Sky. And we set up a match later on in the night. It's going to be Bianca Belair versus Kairi Sane. And what was interesting is after you had Charlotte, Shotzi, and Bianca beating up on Io Sky, Asuka, and Kairi Sane, I called them the Japanese Yakuza. They were in the back, and here comes Bayley. Where were you? Thanks, guys, for telling me that you were going to confront Bianca Belair. What I didn't like about the segment was, okay, they meet up in the back, and, there's going to be a match later on with Kairi Sane and Bianca. Why doesn't Bayley walk away with them? Why does Bayley just stand there and the camera's got to zoom on her face like she looks concerned? So they bump into her, and they're like, where were you? And she's like, I didn't know that yous were going out there. So later on, when they're setting up the match with Bianca and Kairi Sane, they tell Bayley, stay in the back. Stay in the back. We don't need you. Stay in the back. So Bianca has the match with Kairi Sane. Everybody comes out except for Bayley. And then ultimately, everybody gets ejected. Charlotte, who tried to get involved, gets ejected. All the members get ejected. And it's straight up Bianca Belair and Kairi Sane. Towards the very end of the match, here comes Bayley. Kind of doing the same thing that she did with Io Sky. If you remember not too long ago, it might have even been Crown Jewel, where Bayley showed up and Io Sky was like, what are you doing here? I got this. So Bayley actually helped yesterday, yanked on Bianca's hair, knocks her down, but Kairi Sane is still shocked that she's there. And Kairi Sane climbs the top rope to nail the elbow, and no water in the pool because Bayley knocks her off the top rope. And then, Bianca knocks her off the top rope, and Bianca hits her with the KOD and pins her. And after the match is over, you see Bayley with a very, very concerned look on her face. I think for many people out there, they're a little bit more upset the fact that Kairi Sane is already losing matches. So, Revamp says that I have 2 live streams going at the same time. Wow, that's interesting. If that's the case, let me disconnect one of them right now. How do I have 2 going at the same time? Let me disconnect one of them. That could be part of the reason why some of my stats are lower. Just give me 1 second, guys. Let me disconnect this other stream. He says that 2 live streams are gone. Oh, yeah, look at this. Look at this. Let me see if I could stop this one. Yeah, I don't even know how to stop it. Oh, I do know how to stop it. Okay, I could take this and we could delete this. Yeah, delete forever. Delete forever. That's pretty funny. There's like half on one stream and half on the other. I don't know why that happened. That's pretty wild. All right, well, that should take care of it. If anybody that is on a stream, go to the other stream. Yeah, I deleted the other stream. I don't even know how the hell that happened. 2 live streams at the same time. That kind of sucks. All right. So that was Bianca yesterday defeating Kairi Sane. What else did we have yesterday? I think that was it as far as the matches go. Yeah, that was all the matches. So a couple of things with SmackDown to get into. First off, next week for Tribute to the Troops. It is a Tribute to the Troops themed SmackDown episode, and that is going to be taking place in Providence, Rhode Island, live next week. They have already announced that CM Punk will be there. CM Punk will be there next week. Don't know who he's going to be wrestling. Might end up something like Dominic Mysterio, somebody like that, maybe JD McDonough. I told you, I want to see CM Punk have one match with Chad Gable. I think that would be a hell of a lot of fun. Next week also, we're going to get Charlotte Flair taking on Asuka. So that match will be going down. And then we also have the 2 qualifying matches, or whoever advances to the second round, Dragon Lee versus Santos Escobar and Bobby Lashley versus Karrion Kross. And, Randy Orton was not announced for next week, but I'm sure he'll be there. And then the week after, Roman Reigns, and we go from there. So SmackDown yesterday, I thought it was a fun show. It did what it needed to do. Randy Orton remaining on SmackDown is very, very strong, because if you paid attention at the ratings also, without Roman Reigns there, LA Knight, and this is not a knock on LA Knight, but I think fans are starting to get a little bit complacent with LA Knight and Jimmy Uso, or LA Knight and Solo Sikoa. John Cena is no longer there. John Cena is back in Hollywood. Logan Paul is not there on a weekly basis. Logan Paul is not wrestling anytime soon. You need somebody besides LA Knight. If John Cena is not going to be there, if Roman Reigns is not going to be on a weekly basis, if Logan Paul is not even going to be there on a weekly basis, Logan Paul actually does pop a number. When we discuss Logan Paul's appearances, the fans do not turn off in droves. You never see any drops. I'm not a fan of Logan Paul's, but I can't deny that he just comes off as a great personality, and he takes his work seriously. When he cut his promo yesterday and says, the more you try to shoot me down, talking to the crowd, the harder I work. And that's admirable. I mean, that should be the mindset of a lot of people out there. The more you try to knock me down, the harder I want to work. And not trying to make it personal, but that's been a mantra of myself and Kev and some others out there when we do the shows over the years. People want to try to silence us and shoot us down and cancel us out. You know, we don't want to like stick our tails between our legs and kiss up. We want to amp it up a notch even more. So let's talk briefly about Ronda Rousey, CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Tony Khan, getting some ratings. RIC FLAIR, we got to talk about RIC FLAIR as well. First off, let's briefly, you know what? Let's briefly get this out of the way. That is actually a graphic from Sportskeeda that is still everywhere. If you go around the net, go on YouTube, go on sites, you will see a lot of banners that says Ronda Rousey signs with AEW. And since that weekend, we said, until Tony Khan puts Ronda Rousey as All Elite, these people are just clickbaiting for hits. Ronda Rousey bumped into TMZ yesterday. And TMZ asked her, are you signing with AEW? And her answer was, no, I don't think so. When the person asked Ronda Rousey, why aren't you going to sign with AEW? She says, I'm just trying to be home with my family and be a full-time mom. So AEW happened to be in her neighborhood, and her friend was there, and she showed up, and AEW allowed her to work with her friend. It was a one-time deal. That's probably why Tony Khan didn't make a lot of fuss over it. And when you heard a lot of people out there saying, oh, they should have hyped it up, tease it, main event, if she's just going to be a one-time appearance, no, you do keep it on the low. So for all the people out there that were telling you that she already signed with AEW, it was 100% lie. She's not signing with AEW. Could that change down the line? Sure. If Tony Khan makes her an offer where she could work very, very limited number of dates and be home most of the time, why wouldn't she do it? I would. So never say never. But as of now, Ronda Rousey's appearance, pretty much a one-time deal. Bryan Danielson. Kevin and I had this conversation on Tuesday about it. It was revealed that Bryan Danielson was part of a committee that made the decision to let CM Punk go out of his contract. Now, you know, the one thing that we said all along is that there is no outside investigation. There wasn't one a year and a half ago, and there wasn't one now. Everybody knew what happened. It was a matter of lawyers trying to figure out what's the best way going forward for all parties involved to avoid lawsuits, to amicably part ways, and figure out how do they go about this. You know, for CM Punk, it was either one of two things. He stays or he goes. The lawyers, I want to make this clear, the lawyers did not decide CM Punk must go. The boss decides if CM Punk goes. Bryan Danielson on a committee with lawyers determining what to do about CM Punk. The lawyers are there to discuss the legalities of it. Can CM Punk sue? Can Tony Khan sue? What does CM Punk's lawyer feel about this? CM Punk had an attorney that was in contact with AEW's attorneys. Nobody thinks about any of this stuff. People think, oh, Bryan Danielson, oh, what a way to stab your friend in the back. As Kevin and I said on Tuesday, if there's anybody in that company, if you want somebody representing the locker room, the roster, somebody who has a little bit of an unbiased view of things that will call it straight down the middle, Bryan Danielson seems one of the most genuine to do so. So we thought it was great that Bryan Danielson was on this committee. I wish that Bryan Danielson would have also said, if CM Punk goes, Jack Perry must go as well. You know, I don't know why that wasn't done. You see, Bryan Danielson was on a show called Maggie and Perloff. If you remember, they interviewed Tony Khan a while ago. And if you remember my critique about that show, they're not bad. They're very, very good. But one thing that they do is they do not, or one thing they don't do is they don't follow up with pertinent questions. You know, I don't know if either they're just slow and it doesn't come to mind, or they're very afraid to counter. If you notice a lot of shows out there, that's why Ariel Helwani is so hated amongst AEW fans. He's the only one that counter with questions. If somebody asks Tony Khan, hey, what do you feel about this? Well, I don't really want to talk about it, but watch Rampage tonight. You know, you don't hear them counter with something, wording it a little bit differently, like, well, maybe you could say, ask this and that. They'll just move on. So when they asked Bryan Danielson about the handling of CM Punk, they never followed up and said, what about Jack Perry? Have you heard anybody ask about Jack Perry and the discipline? Nobody wants to touch that because he is still part of AEW. So Bryan Danielson yesterday says this, and I quote, yeah, I am part of a disciplinary committee. Clearly what happened has happened. I'm somebody who, I like CM Punk. I think he brought a lot to AEW while he was there. There's a lot I cannot say about it, or that I want to say about it. I am a part of it. It's really funny. You know how the internet is. Some people say I was the head of the committee. There were more than 3 people involved. Most of them were lawyers. To say that I was the head, I don't even have a college degree. I'm not there bossing people around. I'm part of a disciplinary committee. I have a lot of empathy. I'm grateful for the time that CM Punk spent in AEW. He did a great job for us. I wish him the best in the future, and I hope his run in the WWE goes well. That's classy. That's the right way to go about it. But none of these shows want to say, what about Jack Perry? Nothing. That's my problem with it more than anything else. What about Jack Perry? Why is Jack Perry not being discussed? Because, you know, these hosts want these people to come back. You mentioned CM Punk. I can't talk about it. It's legal. You know, all right, fine. You try to come up with another question. You can't get an answer. Fine. You tried. But since Jack Perry's still on that roster, why is it not brought up? Now, something I want to remind everybody about Bryan Danielson is something that he said 2.5 months ago. 2.5 months ago, Bryan Danielson said, and I quote, in any job, when you lose someone who's very important or you lose someone you really like working with, it's hard. But everyone keeps doing the job, and anytime there is a loss or controversy or struggle inside an organization, it's a chance to bring people closer. It's also a chance to divide people. So you have this thing where you can use the struggle to make your life worse, or you could use the struggle to make your life better. So Bryan Danielson is one of the leaders in AEW. You know, that's why he has some hands-on with trying to help some of the up-and-coming wrestlers, you know, with training. His attitude, his professionalism, trust, you know, those are the qualifications that if you're going to have somebody representing the roster and looking at it in a very objective point of view, I think Bryan Danielson is the right person to have on that list. Now, Tony Khan was on, did an interview with The Athletic, and he was asked a little bit about CM Punk. Now, look, you know what kind of answer by now you get with Tony Khan. You know, just, I can't talk about it. It's a legal thing. It's just, he's afraid. This has been like that for years. But he kind of opened up a little. And he said the first dance was an incredible moment in wrestling and part of a very important time in AEW. All Out 2021, along with All In, are our biggest pay-per-views of all time, and we had a lot of great success as a company, as a team, and in some of the most exciting times, CM Punk has been a big part of that team. So I thought that was classy as well. And honestly, I think that was calculated. I think they were waiting to see what CM Punk was going to say on WWE television. If you listen to what I said last week, or what Kevin and I said, and a lot of people out there said, of course, we fantasize the pipe bomb. We would love the pipe bomb. We would be eating the popcorn, that animated file of Big E shoving the popcorn. We would be glued. We'd be repeating it. With some people have it as a ringtone. But in all reality, you knew deep down inside AEW was not going to be mentioned. Seth Rollins will mention AEW indirectly when he feuds with CM Punk. CM Punk, wanting to, hurt WWE indirectly, I think that's the best way to put it, is going to be the storyline. You're just not going to use words like indirectly because those aren't cute. They're not sexy. But this will be part of that storyline. But CM Punk trashing the Elite, trashing Jack Perry, trashing AEW, sloppy shop, that's not happening. It's not happening. And as I've said before, sometimes the greatest fuck you could give to someone, I'm looking at my text messages. Anybody else going to text me? No. Goldbelly has a sale. Sometimes the best fuck you could give to someone is not give them attention. Some people who need the attention, who need a reason to go after you. I guarantee you, Moxley, I'm sorry to say it, but I guarantee you Moxley and some people behind the scenes in AEW were subconsciously begging CM Punk to say something bad about AEW, because then that gives them every right to snap back and to say something harsh about the guy. But, one of the worst things that CM Punk could do for the people in AEW who hated him was to show up in WWE, be the most professional person you could be, work hard, no baggage, no controversy, no stories behind the scenes, no issues. And you have AEW people saying, who is this guy? What guy did we get? You know what I'm waiting for? We haven't seen it yet. And I know this is going to sound bonkers, but I promise you at some point, somebody's going to say it. People down the line are going to come up with this crazy Vince Russo analogy that WWE sent Vince Russo to WCW to screw and hurt their company. I'm waiting for people to say that when CM Punk met with WWE 8 months ago, for no apparent reason, just showed up one day, was hanging out with Tamina and everything, that they told him to go back to AEW to hurt them. I'm waiting for some moron out there to say that WWE told CM Punk, go back to AEW and fuck with them. Fuck with their biggest show of the year, just bait Jack Perry. I'm waiting for people to come up with those conspiracy theories. You mark my words, as ridiculously stupid as they sound, you mark my words, that will happen. I promise you it'll happen. I know we don't do little clips on YouTube. DT talks about this. TT says this. DT, so nobody ever sees it. But if you follow the shows, at some point this is going to happen and you remember it. DT predicts Shinsuke Nakamura is calling out Cody Rhodes. I get it. That should be clips, online, but it is what it is. I'm not lazy. It's just too much hard work. So, but props to Tony Khan for being a little bit professional here. I mean, to just say that CM Punk was a big part of what we did, that's fine. That's fine. You let it go. You move on. You try to make AEW better, and CM Punk tries to do better for himself in WWE. That's it. By the way, for those that are interested, this Tuesday, Randy Orton will be on Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast. I know some people reported that Randy Orton was going to be on in the near future. I was told that it's going to be Tuesday. In fact, I think even Logan Paul mentioned yesterday Tuesday as well. So it looks like Tuesday will be the day that Randy Orton will be on Impulsive. Let's briefly talk about RIC FLAIR. I'm not going to make a big deal about this, but it's definitely something that you got to keep in the back of your mind because of the mindset of AEW. You know, RIC FLAIR, Dark Side of the Ring, you know, that happened less than a year and a half ago, around that time. And we're reminded of some of RIC FLAIR's very, very, you know, negative history. RIC FLAIR, we hope, was a changed person. But there, you know, there's a lot of animosity. Nobody ever thought RIC FLAIR would be in AEW. Leading up to Sting's retirement announcement, RIC FLAIR was not welcome in AEW. But RIC FLAIR now is obviously in AEW. And the more I see this happening, the more I think RIC FLAIR will turn on Sting, and somebody, you know, on behalf of RIC FLAIR may end up wrestling Sting in a retirement match. Who knows? Maybe they do something goofy where Darby Allin is with RIC FLAIR or something. I don't know. The point is, me personally, I have no interest in seeing RIC FLAIR in AEW. All right. Sting is going to retire in 2024. I don't need every week to be told a story about Sting's past or his relationship with Ric Flair. It's do it a month before, but having these random appearances, you know, when Ric Flair says it's not about the money, you know that's full of shit. If that was the case, Ric Flair would have offered to do other things and make appearances for other people who he cherishes in his life beforehand. At the end of the day, Ric Flair is a human being. All right, he signs a deal with Woo Energy to promote his energy drink. That's fine. But what he wrote on Twitter yesterday, I don't buy that one bit. It almost sounds like something Hulk Hogan would say. Remember when Hulk Hogan was in TNA? 3 years in a row, he said the same thing. If I cannot turn this around and I cannot do what I believe can happen in TNA, I will pack my bags and I will go home. Remember those 3 years in a row we played those clips, said the same thing. What Ric Flair said yesterday made me think of Hulk Hogan. And think of the mindset of AEW. Think of the casual AEW fan. Think about the wrestlers. You know, we just found out recently, Dutch Mantel was talking about it, how no one in the back ever went up to Arn Anderson, ever asked for advice. Never went up to Tully Blanchard and asked Tully Blanchard advice. Not one person. You know, the mindset in AEW is that the past is in the past and we don't take advice from those people. You know, I can only imagine, does anybody take advice from Jake the Snake Roberts? So yesterday, we got AEW Rampage, and something was edited out. Tony Schiavone was going to interview Ric Flair and Sting. And, you know, it's obviously to hype up Sting's retirement match at Revolution 2024. And Ric Flair, you know, talked about how he shouldn't even be alive and the plane crash and his love for Sting and everything about Sting. But at some point during this, he decides to say this. He tells the live audience, and I put Spacey Mountain. If anybody knows why I wrote Spacey, props to you. You know, I try to use play on words to make people think a little bit. Ric Flair said to the crowd, he looked at the girls, and he said to all the girls in the crowd, 18 to 28, no boyfriends, no husbands, meet me in my hotel room. And he got in a lot of hot water over this. Isn't it amazing that AEW will never edit matches when people are botching worse than an amateur, or there'll be some awful controversial stuff, or even just like objectionable stuff, and they'll leave it in. But they edited this line out yesterday. Now, Ric Flair is getting in a lot of hot water for this remark. So Ric Flair, now I haven't given you my thoughts yet, so don't read too far ahead. Ric Flair goes on Twitter yesterday. Ric Flair poses this picture. He posts this picture. And Ric Flair says, and I quote, "I am so tired of hearing all this negativity. I don't need to work, and I don't need the money. Can't I simply enjoy being by my dear friend Sting's side for the next few months without so much hatred? I know I'm old, but that doesn't mean I can't enjoy life. I have earned the right to do whatever I want, and I'm exactly where I want to be. I appreciate everything, Tony Khan, but I'm more than willing to walk away if I am embarrassing you and your company. All I could say is, I'm sorry." Now, my honest opinion about this, Steve Austin, Kevin Nash, a few others, Chris Jericho, they all came to the defense of Ric Flair. And they pretty much said that, you've earned the right, to be who you are. You're Ric fucking Flair. Have fun. You put a smile on my face. You've earned that right. I don't know what that right actually is. You understand what I'm saying? Like, do I have a problem with him saying 18 to 28-year-olds come to my hotel room? I don't have a real problem with it. He's a creepy old man in that sense. Somebody that looks like my great-grandfather wanting to hit on an 18-year-old. 18-year-old is barely legal. If you really think about it, 18 is borderline. But here's the problem with it. Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is very close to the age of Ric Flair. And Vince McMahon has never been convicted of any crimes. People would love him to be convicted of crimes. People would love Ric Flair to be convicted of crimes, but they have not. They have had some very disgusting behavior. And the thing is, if you accept Ric Flair trying to hit on 18-year-olds, I'm not saying that Vince hits on 18-year-olds, but if you have one creepy old man acting that way, and if you're fine with it, then what do you say about Vince McMahon? That's the problem. That's the problem for a lot of people. I don't know what it actually means when Kevin Nash says you have earned that right. You have earned that right of what? Being in AEW, having fun, being by Sting's side, absolutely. But having the right of what? People are not upset with Ric Flair, so to speak, in AEW. People are upset that after Dark Side of the Ring being rehashed, after all of his antics over the years, that his idea is 18-year-olds come to Space Mountain. Is anybody going to take him up on his offer? No, obviously not. But the thing is, the problem within AEW is that if you let this go, but you don't let it go with Vince McMahon, I mean, in a lot of ways, they're both very disgusting. Vince McMahon's been accused of some very horrible things. Ric Flair on a plane accused of some very horrible things. How do you publicly accept one and not accept the other? And in AEW, when legends are not looked at as, like people who could guide and, try to help, and, it seems like legends are frowned upon. In many cases, legends are frowned upon. And when you hear that nobody takes the advice of legends, they're not required to, but the mindset in AEW, the foundation, Ric Flair was never fans never expressed the need for Ric Flair to be in AEW. Tony Khan brought him in for Sting. And that's wonderful and everything. But, at the end of the day, does Sting really want to be side by side with Ric Flair for the last final months of his contract? How do you know that? I'm sure Tony Khan sat down with Sting way before Ric Flair was introduced on AEW television and said, hey, Sting, what do you think about having Ric Flair by your side? I don't think Tony Khan really surprised Sting, and Sting had no idea that Ric Flair was coming back. Because sometimes wrestlers will thank people from yesteryear, and then if the person comes out, oh, yeah, thank you. You really don't know. And, if you're going to bring someone in, there are other people they could have brought in that were much less controversial than Sting, and they have not done so. So that's the deal. I don't know how you feel about it. Me personally, I don't have much of a problem with that because, when you think of Ric Flair's entire career, styling and profiling, riding Space Mountain, kiss the girls and make them cry, that's what his persona is. Ric Flair's trying to hold on to what Ric Flair was for 50 years. He's trying to hold on to that. So that aspect of his masculinity, the girls still want me. That's why you even look at Evolution. A lot of Evolution, they tried to give this perception that all the girls wanted to be with each one of them. We used to joke that it felt awkward to see all these very young women around Ric Flair. And how many years ago was that? That's, over 15 years ago. So I don't really have much of a problem with what Ric Flair said. I'm a little surprised that AEW edited it out, because this is Ric Flair being Ric Flair. But I don't buy his apology, though, because there's a lot of other things that Ric Flair could have done for free. And suddenly he wants to be by the side of his friend, and I could do it for free. And then if I'm embarrassing people, I'll go home. Ric Flair should have apologized to Tony Khan privately, not on Twitter. So that's just my opinion on it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I didn't think it was a big deal when Scott Hall said it. And think about Scott Hall's age at the time. And look at Ric Flair. I mean, people, if you were not around or you weren't a wrestling fan in 2015, when Scott Hall made an innocent little joke on Twitter about Paige, you got to see, what he went through. And it was a shame. Because even Paige was like, oh, come on, it's a lighthearted joke. Let it go. But people really went after him like, you're a creepy old man towards Paige. So, all right. For those that are interested, WWE announced, before we get into that, we got to mention this quickly because we're going to start wrapping this up. This is the Royal Rumble poster. This is the official poster for the Royal Rumble. And, we'll leave it on the screen for a few moments. And if you look at, the faces, you could see that a lot of the very important names and faces are on there. AJ Styles, Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Damian Priest, Dominic Mysterio is there, Rhea Ripley, CM Punk, Logan Paul. One person who is omitted from that poster is Drew McIntyre. And Drew McIntyre playing up to this on social media. Are you starting to understand my frustrations now? He is not happy about this poster. I personally say don't read much into this because there are some other names that are not on that poster either. For example, is Gunther on this poster? My friends, is Gunther on this poster? I don't see Gunther on this poster. I don't see Gunther on this poster. Shinsuke Nakamura is not on this poster. Yeah, you look at Damage Control. Asuka's the only one on that poster. Is Bayley on this poster? I don't see Bayley on this poster. My point is, don't read too much into it. Punk is right next to Logan Paul. I was going to turn it upside down so people could see the upside down. Wait, somebody says top left is Gunther. I'm looking at it. No, I don't see Gunther. I don't see Gunther. Yeah, I don't see Gunther. Gunther's by Bobby's side. I still don't see Gunther. No, I don't see Gunther. Oh, wait. Oh, all right. Gunther is there. You could barely see him. He's above Asuka's head. I mean, talk about the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion in history. Honestly, he's got like a third of his head is showing. Yeah, and Kevin Owens is not on there. Yeah, there's a lot of people not on there. I think Drew McIntyre legitimately could be World Heavyweight Champion by Royal Rumble. I really believe Drew McIntyre is destined to become World Heavyweight Champion. That might be one of the reasons why they have omitted him from this picture, to advance the storyline that, he's disrespected. And it's a play. Remember what I said last week about Triple H and old school and playing on reality, blurring that line just a little bit more. Drew McIntyre is mastering it right now. People were doing these big podcast episodes like Drew storms out of Survivor Series, ran out of the cage and got into his car and sped off. We'll never see Drew again. 48 hours later, it was on TV. If you could fool even... See, this is what you got to ask yourself. Is WWE fooling the legends, the legendary podcasters, or are they just using it for money? They know the truth, but they'll play like they don't know. Kevin and I actually had a pretty damn good conversation about that, I think, on the Q&A this week. But, Drew, I think, will be in a very, very good position by the Royal Rumble. I think this is just a play on storyline, so I don't read much into it. So, before we get out of here, just one last thing. I want to talk about some WWE events coming up that they announced, and some pretty big ones as well. But if those of you are interested, tomorrow night at 8:05 p.m., I'll be here for the sit down. Again, I had to cut today's show short because I have to be on the road in about 2 hours because I'm going to a Christmas party tonight. I'm going to be hanging out with Crazy Eddie and who knows who else. So we'll see. But WWE announced 21 new live events that are going to take place between February and April. And some of these probably going to be in some of your neck of the woods. But some of these events are very interesting. And, some of it is just exclusively SmackDown, some Raw, some a mixture of both. And we have an NXT Premium Live event in here too. So let me give you the list pretty quickly. Give a super shout out and get out of here. So Sunday, February 4th, they got two events. One of them is NXT Vengeance Day. That'll be taking place at the F&M Bank Arena in Clarksville, Tennessee. So NXT Vengeance Day. Oh, we got to do ratings too. This week in ratings. Oh my God, we have some very important shit to talk about with the ratings. We'll do that last. Corbin, Kentucky, Sunday, February 4th, the road to WrestleMania at the Corbin Arena. Saturday, March 2nd in Palm Springs, California at the Acrisure Arena, the road to WrestleMania. You also have the road to WrestleMania Sunday, March 3rd in Bakersfield, California at the Mechanics Bank Arena. The Cajun Dome in Lafayette, Louisiana will be holding a road to WrestleMania on Sunday, March 10th. Alexandria, Louisiana on Saturday, March 9th, the road to WrestleMania at Rapids Coliseum. Friday, March 15th, SmackDown at the Cajun Dome, at the FedEx Forum in Memphis, Tennessee. Saturday, March 16th in Augusta, Georgia, the road to WrestleMania at the James Brown Arena. Ha! I can't do it today. I used to do great James Brown impersonations. Can't do it today. Sunday, March 17th, North Charleston, South Carolina, the road to WrestleMania at the North Charleston Coliseum. Raw will be returning to the PNC Arena in Raleigh, North Carolina on Monday, March 18th. Saturday, March 23rd in Springfield, Illinois, the road to WrestleMania at the Bank of Springfield Center. Sunday, March 24th in Rockford, Illinois, the road to WrestleMania, the BMO Center. Raw will be returning to Chicago, March 25th at the Allstate Arena. Friday, March 29th, where I just came from, part of my trip, Uncasville, Connecticut, the Mohegan Sun Arena. That'll be SmackDown. My birthday weekend. I might be able to go. Saturday, March 30th in Manchester, New Hampshire, the road to WrestleMania at the SNHU Arena. Friday, April 19th in Pittsburgh, SmackDown will be at the PBG Paints Arena. Saturday, April 12th in Erie, Pennsylvania, Saturday night's main event at the Erie Insurance Arena. Sunday, April 21st in Fort Wayne, Indiana, Sunday Stunner. That'll take, remember, these all after WrestleMania, at the Allen County War Memorial Coliseum. Monday, April 22nd, Raw will be in Columbus, Ohio at the Schottenstein Center. Friday, April 26th in Cincinnati, SmackDown will be at the Heritage Bank Center. And Monday, April 29th in Kansas City, Missouri, Raw will be at the T-Mobile Center. Before I get into this week in ratings, big shout out to Nero Faye, who is chiming in from Israel. I hope you are safe. Obviously, I think you are. Much love. Keep safe, my friend. Seeing the things calm down for the last couple of days, I wish it would stay that way, but, it is what it is. It sucks. Shout out to you. And I know everybody out there is saying a prayer for you as well. Walrads, thank you for the 5 spot. I support McMahon and Flair. I don't support Danielson. He has a shameful conflict of interest and took Punk's spot, starting by wrestling Ricky Starks. I'm not the biggest Bryan Danielson fan, but somebody of high quality, value, and name, as well as ability, needed to replace Punk on these shows. And Bryan Danielson, in AEW's eyes, was the man to do it. Keep in mind that Tony Khan, more than one occasion over the last month or two, has been telling people that 2024 will be Bryan Danielson's last full-time year in AEW. Will he stay there in a managerial role, behind the scenes, executive, EVP? That is to be determined. But when you look at that roster up and down, Bryan Danielson is probably one of the ones that you could trust the most. I don't think he stabbed CM Punk in the back at all. CM Punk ended up pretty well off. I mean, you see, he's already got the #1 shirt on sale in WWE shop. He's made history with the amount of attention that he's gotten. He's going to be on the road to WrestleMania. He's making millions and millions of dollars. AJ Lee may be returning to WWE down the line, especially if everything goes well. That does open the door for AJ Lee. I think in the end, CM Punk comes out better out of all of this. I mean, Thunder Rosa said in an interview a day or two ago that this might be CM Punk's last opportunity. Kevin and I were using the Forrest Gump analogy on Tuesday's show, that this may be CM Punk's last opportunity. He's home, but after that, what is there? It's not Impact Wrestling, it ain't MLW, and it certainly isn't going to be Japan. So this is CM Punk's last shot to really be in the big time. And so far, we're only 1 week removed, but it's been nothing but positive. So I don't really have an issue with Bryan Danielson, but if that's how you feel, I totally respect it. And as far as Vince McMahon and Ric Flair, look, I've said this many times before. They didn't get convicted on any crimes. In the world of millionaires and billionaires, unfortunately, some of the behavior, they get away with a lot more. Would I ever want Ric Flair or Vince McMahon as my father? No fucking way. I do appreciate what Vince has provided me in the world of wrestling entertainment for all of these decades. But, at the end of the day, neither one have been convicted of any crimes. And I know that might be just, words at this point for a lot of people out there. But, I don't see them doing any criminal behavior going forward. I mean, they're on thin ice as they are. And plus, we don't know how much longer they're going to be around. Realistically, how much longer they're going to be around. All right, let's wrap this up with this week in ratings. Now, I got 2 dynamites for you because I was originally going to do a Wednesday night show, but with the Survivor Series Aftermath episode that Kevin and I did and then the Q&A that we launched yesterday, it would have been way too much content. Just people would not have had enough time to soak it all in. So I saved the ratings for today. Very interesting that Jay Lethal has been the bright point of AEW 2 weeks in a row with the ratings. Yes, they're both Big Bang Theory lead-ins, but let me tell you why I give Jay Lethal credit. Because the second quarter, he maintained most of the viewers. Did not have any big drops. Jay Lethal, 2 weeks in a row, deserves a little bit of props. Keeping their rating beyond the Big Bang Theory lead-in. So let's get into it. Dynamite, November 22nd, 845,000 viewers. That is up from the week prior, is 823,000. The high point for November 22nd's Dynamite, it was Jay Lethal versus Swerve Strickland, which did 971,000 viewers. The negative, unfortunately, Jon Moxley versus Mark Briscoe main event. Not only did it do 721,000 viewers, but they had a 7-minute overrun, and they lost another 50,000 viewers as the match went on. The positive from that night, Swerve remains consistent, solid with his numbers. Jay Lethal as well. And Swerve topped Adam Copeland's rating for that night. The negative, after the Jay Lethal Swerve match, MJF, Adam Cole, and Samoa Joe segment lost 85,000 viewers. This was not right after the Big Bang lead-in. This was another quarter afterwards. That's concerning. MJF will be mentioned again in a moment. They also lost 300,000 viewers from the time the show started to the time it finished. And the final 50 minutes of Dynamite did not crack 800,000 viewers. MJF's drops recently are a little bit concerning. I think the Devil storyline is dragging on too long. It's going to be Adam Cole. Britt Baker not being on TV will have a role in it. Wardlow, people think, will be one of the masked men. There's going to be a faction. And it's probably going to involve everybody that MJF has had a problem with. That's probably where this is going. New Japan Pro Wrestling for November 23rd did 41,000 viewers. That is pretty much the same as the week prior. Impact Wrestling from the 23rd of... I wonder why I didn't pull last week. Did I pull last week's? I don't. Okay, so this past Thursday's numbers did not come out yet. So the Thursday before, they did 53,000 viewers, way down from the week prior's 91,000. But remember, that was Thanksgiving. So we kind of give them a little bit of a pass. SmackDown on FS1 did 789,000 viewers. Obviously, substantially down from the week prior's 2,206,000 because it was FS1. The high point was Becky and Charlotte versus Bayley and Asuka. That did 885,000 viewers. They are the only women for the entire week that scored a good number. The low point from SmackDown on FS1, the Street Profits versus Finn Balor and Damian Priest, that only scored 695,000 viewers. The positive from that SmackDown, the opener of Team Bianca in the ring, that popped a strong number. The tag team title match lost 100,000 viewers, but the rating increased for the final 90 minutes of SmackDown. Many times it's the opposite. So after that tag title match with the Street Profits, the ratings went up for the last 90 minutes of SmackDown. The negative, other than the New Year's Eve edition of SmackDown on FS1 in 2021, that was the lowest SmackDown rating ever on FS1. Consider the last time we had SmackDown on FS1, that was the contract signing with Roman Reigns and LA Knight. That episode did 1,145,000 viewers. Just to show you how many less people tuned in to this past SmackDown on FS1. Rampage, for November 25th did 264,000 viewers, down from the week prior's 280. The high point was, believe it or not, the week prior's Rampage, we had something that we haven't had before. We had a tie for the high, and we had a tie for the low. There's only 4 quarters for Rampage. 2 of the quarters were the same, and the other 2 quarters were the same. The high point for Rampage was a tie between Rocky Romero versus Hook, and the first half of Chris Statlander versus Diamante, that did 270,000 viewers. The low point was a tie, the second half of Chris Statlander and Diamante, and, the ever so popular Katsuyori Shibata versus Wheeler, the great, not so great Yuta, did 259. So what's the positive? They were either between 259 and 270 the whole night. So their viewers stood. The negative, lowest Rampage in history with the rating. And Shibata drew flies. Collision for November 25th did 317,000 viewers. That is up from the week prior's 270. The high point was the House of Black versus Commander and Gravity. That did 350,000 viewers. The low point, we knew this was coming. Keith Lee. They did that storyline the week before. I'm sick and tired of not getting opportunity. I'm going to take it myself. Well, in Keith Lee's mind, getting opportunity is beating on Lee Moriarty. Fans were like, no thanks. 283,000, lowest for Collision. The positive was the biggest drop of the night was only 45,000 viewers, but then again, when your rating is under 300,000, you're not going to get any big drops. Hour 1 was 327, hour 2 was 315, so it was consistent for the whole night. The negative is that it was the lowest rating in the history of Collision. FTR continues to suck in the ratings. Their match only drew 313,000 viewers, and Adam Copeland's segment only scored a staggering 300,000 viewers. Raw from this past Monday did 1,884,000 viewers. That is up, way up, from the week prior's 1,459,000. Now, how did Randy and CM Punk do? Randy Orton's opener was the high point of the night, did 2,059,000 viewers. Cody Rhodes' promo, which was interrupted by Shinsuke Nakamura, was the second highest rating of the night, which hit almost 2 million viewers. The low point of Raw was Becky's promo and the first half of Randy Orton versus Dominic Mysterio, which did 1,650,000 viewers. That's still about 400,000 more than quarter 7 in recent weeks, so it's still a decent number. But take note of this. The match right before Dom and Randy was Natty and Tegan Knox versus Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. After that match ended, 60,000 viewers turned off Raw or changed the channel. Pretty interesting. Now, the positive is that hour 1 for Raw averaged over 2 million viewers. The first 40 minutes of Raw broke 2 million. The Tag Team Turmoil match only lost around 100,000 viewers, and the lowest point of the gauntlet was DIY versus Alpha Academy and DIY versus Indus Sher. After that, nothing was under 1.6 million for the entire night. The negative is a little bit deceiving. The negative is that CM Punk's I'm back promo, I'm home, only scored 1.8 million. But remember, Raw averaged 400,000 viewers more than it normally does. Main events on Raw usually average 1.4 to 1.5 million on the really high end on a typical Raw. So CM Punk getting 1.8 million is still a very good number. Also, Randy Orton versus Dominic was the lowest of the night, the first half of it. And after that match was over, CM Punk only gained 150,000 viewers. That's not much more than the Undertaker's increase on NXT very recently. By the way, Ivar versus Bronson Reed lost 90,000 viewers as the match went on. Nia Jax versus Zoe Stark lost 83,000 viewers as the match went on. NXT for this past Tuesday did 659,000 viewers. That is up from the week prior, 622. The high point from NXT was Ilya Dragunov versus Nathan Frazier, that confrontation in the back, which led to the match. And the Lexus King Brooks Jensen segment, that along with the first half of Kalani Jordan versus Kiana James, that scored 713,000 viewers. The low point of NXT this past Tuesday was Ariana Grace versus Carmen Petrovic. And the first half of Lexus King versus Brooks Jensen, that only did 580,000 viewers. The positive from NXT was that Braun Breaker versus Eddie Thorpe and the match between Ilya and Nathan Frazier maintained their viewers. They both scored 705,000 viewers back-to-back. Their matches were back-to-back, and they had 705,000 viewers for both quarters. The negative, unfortunately, the fans did not buy into the four-way match with the Wesley stipulation. The return of Johnny Gargano versus Bronson Reed versus Cameron Grimes versus Wesley. If Wesley wins, he gets his match against Dominic Mysterio at the next Premium Live event. Less than half the show broke 700,000 viewers, and that match only drew 650. They were not buying it. I thought the stip was stupid. Why not just have the stip? Whoever wins the match faces Dominic at the next event. Why do stipulation where if Wesley wins, he gets the shot? If he loses, he don't get the shot. Then who faces Dom? I don't know why they went that route, but Wesley takes on Dom at Deadline. The pause. All right, so we got into the negative. Okay, so now we finish up with Dynamite from this past Wednesday. Pretty interesting. Dynamite for Wednesday did 858,000 viewers. That is up from the week prior, is 845. The high point, second week in a row, featuring Jay Lethal. Jay Lethal versus Jon Moxley drew 970,000 viewers. They did lose 85,000 viewers as the match went on, but remember, this is the Big Bang Theory lead-in, so it still ended close to 900,000 viewers. They stuck around 2 weeks in a row for Jay Lethal, which is good. Week before was Swerve and Jay. This week it was Jay and Moxley. The low point of Dynamite, and this is very interesting, it's a tie. Julie Hart and Emi Sakura, which we expect because Julie Hart now has the Chris Statlander template, which was the Jade Cargill template. Let me just fight random people. Emi Sakura is usually one of the first. Then someone will randomly come down the aisle, have a little bit of a confrontation, and that leads to a promo the following week, which leads to a match, and then it leads to a tag match, and then after that, face random person, probably be Diamante next, and then somebody randomly comes out. We know the formula for the women's division, unfortunately. So that match was tied for the lowest, along with the Hardys and Isaiah Cassidy versus Action Andretti and Top Flight, and Jay White versus Swerve Strickland. All of those matches did 790,000 viewers. Swerve versus Jay White, 790. The positive from Dynamite, Jay Lethal opened Dynamite the last 2 weeks and pretty much maintained the viewers for the 2 quarters that he was on. Last week, his match with Swerve did 971. This week, his match with Moxley did 970. Almost identical. No quarter hour scored less than 790,000 viewers for the entire night, so they were pretty consistent with their viewers. The negative on Wednesday is that MJF's segment did not gain any additional viewers when it came on. Usually see a little spike, did not gain any additional viewers, and MJF did not break 900,000. 40,000 viewers tuned out during Swerve Strickland and Jay White's match, and that was after Christian Cage and Adam Copeland's confrontation. AR Fox versus Wardlow lost 50,000 viewers, and as I said earlier, the Hardys and Isaiah Cassidy versus Top Flight and Action Andretti, that also lost 50,000 viewers. So that is your detailed this week in wrestling ratings. So with that said, I am going to jet my ass out of here. I'm going to put this online as quickly as I can. And like I said, I got a little bit of a Christmas party to go to. I mean, I still got a shit shower and shave and traveling to Staten Island. We got a room for the night in the Hilton. So trust me, it's like budget. But this way we could get dressed out there. So at least I don't have to rush over here and get ready, but I still got to put my shit together. Plus, my wife is still getting her hair done at some salon. So any minute she's going to be texting my ass saying, pick me up. So I got to be on the road in about 90 minutes. So I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. Tomorrow, 8:05 p.m. Eastern, I will be here for the sit down. And again, if you haven't done so already, go to DonTony.com, download the 2 episodes that Kevin and I did this week. Tremendous. I want to thank everybody that was part of the Q&A. We got into everybody's questions. I will announce tomorrow night the winners of the predictions contest for Survivor Series for the YouTube channel members and Patreon. So those winners will be revealed tomorrow night as well. I will go through them tomorrow during the day. And then next week, we're back to the regular schedule, Raw, Wednesday Night Dynamite, Patreon, and everything else. But I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Much love as always. And yeah, post a question, a comment, spread the word. Let everybody know, not only that, we're doing the shows here, but let everybody know that the DTKC show is back. People have been asking us, when are you going to do weekly shows again? Number one, I don't want to overload Kev, but, that is something that could very well happen in 2024. The idea of doing a show once a week. We would just have to figure out what day and what time. Does it replace Mondays? Possibly. The only thing is, if we do a weekly show again, it's going to be audio only. Will not be video. We're not even going to go that route. It's easier for him. It's easier for me. And, the only way we're going to even consider doing that again is, if there's enough people that demand it. We're obviously not getting any love amongst the podcasting world as a whole. It's funny because Kev even acknowledges it for 3 years. Oh, why don't you two get back together? So many shows, so many journalists, so many come on, you guys, you're the OGs. You got to get back together. And we weren't going to get back together unless we got along. And we ironed things out and we got back together. And 98% of all those people that kept publicly saying get back together, they won't even acknowledge the fact that we're back together. And it's pretty surprising, but hey, as we used to say in 2004, 5, and 6, when we really started getting into a groove, the less attention we get by the other shows out there, the more that we realize that we're onto something. The only thing that sucks, and I will admit it, I'll acknowledge it, back in the day, Jim Cornette was not around. But there is no denying it that back then we were the number one show out there. Could we ever get to number one again? Who knows? Who knows? But I promise you this, if you did not check out Tuesday's episode, The Aftermath of Survivor Series, that is a masterpiece. That is a spectacular episode. Something that I'm proud of and he's proud of. And every conversation, if you tuned in, you know what I'm talking about, from the Zoe Stark stuff to the Carlito, to the Cody, to the Roman, to the CM Punk. People think we're crazy about some of the stuff we said about Punk, but it's happening. Right before our very eyes, it's happening. But it's definitely a must listen. I promise you, you will not regret it. So I'm out of here. Be well, everybody. Talk to you all again soon. Much love. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the hosts. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's alright. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.